Yo, what is up everybody, and welcome back to another daily update video. My name is CryptoStash and I hope you're having an amazing weekend. It is currently Saturday and the stock markets and the semi-future markets are closed, so we will be covering firstly the price of Bitcoin, Ethereum and some other altcoins. So right now, if we start with Bitcoin, as you can see, we're currently getting a perfect bounce from our weekly pivot resistance. We are currently holding it as support. So I'm expecting it's possible that we get a price reversal from here if we go on a hard time frame. As you can see, we are still keeping, if we draw a trend line from here, we are kind of keeping a trend line to the upside, as you can see, with slightly fake out below it, bounce from the weekly pivot support, and right now we're bouncing from the weekly pivot resistance flipped as support. So I am expecting some kind of a continuation to the upside, or maybe it's possible that we get some kind of a consolidation, some kind of chop during the weekend, and then once the markets open on Monday, then the price can shoot up to another new all-time high, in my opinion. These are my outlooks for now. And also yesterday's news-driven dump, as you can see, if we go on a hard time frame, was basically, in my opinion, just a small correction. As you can see, 4.5%, basically a very needed correction, since our RSI momentum was very oversold, as you can see here above the 80 line, and then we got right now a cool off for the indicators. So basically it's also on the daily time frame, the momentum is clipping to the upside for a potential reversal like we had here. As you can see, historically we have a very oversold momentum, then price cools off with a chop or consolidation, or maybe a correction, and then once again the price goes up, gets again overheated like here, oversold, basically a consolidation begins, the RSI cools off, and then we take to the upside once again. So basically the same thing is repeating here, as you can see, and this time price is finding support at our weekly pivot resistance, previous resistance currently flipped as support on Bitcoin. Also, if we look right here, our weekly pivot is of around 105k. Basically it's still possible that another scenario that we dump to around here 104, 105, and also it's perfectly placed with our value area high, as you can see, of the previous range that we broke out of. So that's also very strong support. So maybe we dump to down here, and then I'm expecting price to hold and then make another push to the upside, as you can see here. Now if we look at Ethereum, for example, Ethereum is currently finding support at that weekly pivot, so it's having a perfect bounce from the weekly pivot. Also the weekly pivot is our POC of that range. Right here you can see most volume has been traded here, that's the POC of the range, and basically it perfectly correlates with that weekly pivot. Also the RSI momentum is right now also curving up, looking good for a potential reversal. But as you can see, the markets are currently slow since it is the weekend, so I'm not expecting much of a move to the upside. If you look at it on a hard time frame, as you can see, the RSI on Ethereum is actually looking better than Bitcoin. It is not as oversold as on Bitcoin. Basically there is still much more room to the upside for us to maybe around potential targets of that 0618 golden pocket, basically $3,000 for Ethereum. That will be a pump of about 20%, as you can see right here. And that's my outlook for Ethereum. As you can see, perfectly holding for now that weekly pivot plus that POC of the range. So if we break below that, then I will start to get concerned. Then maybe we can probably test that value area low right here. So basically maybe price can do something like this, test this level right here, and then once again go up and try to break above that weekly pivot resistance. Now if we look at Solana, just the same as Ethereum, and holding this weekly pivot perfectly. If we draw our POC range, basically you can see it's almost perfectly correlated with our POC. Basically the most range is right here, so the price is holding it very steady. As you can see, we are currently back below that value area high, and right now we are still consolidating in the middle. RSI looking also nice, and nicely cooled off, and then I'm expecting some kind of reversal also for Solana. I'm still keeping bullish, guys, since you know the trend is your friend basically to the end, and once we get the markets going, also the stock market, since they're closed, if the next week they open to the upside, then we can look for a potential reverse also for Bitcoin and the altcoins. Now if we look at SUI has had a significantly bigger correction in my opinion, since because of the hack. But as you can see, our weekly pivot points, they perfectly predicted this dump. So basically we got a 15% move to the downside for SUI, rejecting from that weekly pivot resistance, and then slashing right through that weekly pivot right here. And right now we are finding support at our second weekly pivot support of around $3.55, and we are right now having a perfect bounce as the same as Solana, and also the same as Bitcoin and Ethereum. Basically that's my outlook for SUI. Now if we look at Hype is currently holding stronger than everything else. It perfectly broke through all of our resistances right here. As you can see, very big momentum. And also, as you can see, once we held that weekly pivot and then got a bounce from it, you can see that bigger move to the upside basically. And right now the RSI is very oversold, so it had that much needed cool off for Hype also. So basically from the top that we made, we got 14%, guys, but that's not 14% of a correction, but that's nothing compared to the pump that we had from the weekly pivot, almost 50%. As you can see, 43%. That's a very big move to the upside. And also if we look at the dollar is currently falling to the downside, basically making lower lows, as you can see right here. Then our next target will be 98 cents right here, basically our last weekly pivot support right here. But you know, weak dollar means strong Bitcoin, as I said in my previous videos. But that will be for now for the dollar my outlook. So if we go to, I wanted to show you the Bitcoin dominance. Basically the Bitcoin dominance also finding resistance at our weekly pivot R1, as you can see. So basically after this consolidation right here for our Bitcoin dominance, I'm expecting a potential dump for it to happen, and then altcoins will actually start doing something. They're also doing great now, but once we need that Bitcoin dominance to drop much lower, maybe have like a move like we had here, we need basically to make like this, and then from here, if we perfectly reject, then we need another move to the downside like this, put in a lower low right here, and then push down to like 60%. Then after this move, our altcoins will basically have ripped much more to the upside. As I said, it all depends on that Bitcoin dominance. Now basically the RSI momentum is kind of looking not so good, since it is cooled off, and it can potentially go up, and then maybe altcoins bleed a bit more, and then we get that another dump to the downside for the Bitcoin dominance, and then finally altcoins can start going. But only the future will tell for now. As you can see, we need also Bitcoin to keep holding this move to the upside. Basically, if we draw a trend line, it's going to be the same trend line as I made by the stock market. So right now, as you can see, Bitcoin is currently holding much better this trend line than the stock market. So stock market is currently having that correction, as you can see, but Bitcoin is holding it nicely. So that's why I'm not concerned. Also, if we look at our ETF inflow, basically the whole week we've been getting millions of Bitcoin ETF inflows. So yesterday we almost got 1 billion. That's basically very bullish. And so in my opinion, all of this BlackRock, Fidelity, all of these big investors buying are also keeping that price up, in my opinion. Also, we are currently getting our Fear and Greed index back to the downside, basically. So this gives me another hope of another push for it. So basically, once you get back to neutral, then we can possibly have another spike to the upside for the Fear and Greed. So then if we get a pump, people will be feeling that FOMO, since the price will be well above that all-time high. And as I said, I'm still keeping my target of around 115-300k basically for Bitcoin. And for Ethereum, my price target is $3,000 basically, that golden pocket. For Solana, I'm still expecting a pushback above 190, basically, that we get back to the $100 target for Solana. Solana also has a lot more potential to the upside, as I said, to that previous all-time high of almost $300, basically $290. And also for Hype, I'm expecting it to make a newer all-time highs. Currently, as you can see, it's basically rejecting from that last all-time high. So we did week above it, but then we got that rejection, as I said, since the indicators, our RSI momentum was very oversold. And basically that will be it for the altcoins. And as I said, I'm still expecting Bitcoin to keep that move to the upside while keeping this trend line right here. Basically, as you can see, it's still very bullish. We've been testing this trend line once, twice, and right now we are testing it once again. And I'm expecting another push to take out this price target right here of around 115k, guys. And maybe even it's possible that we go higher. It all depends, in my opinion, how the stock market opens on Monday. And this will be it for today's weekend update. I hope you liked the video. Leave a like, subscribe for the channel, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye.